resistance is futile. Your life, as it has been, is over. From this time forward, you will service us.
No! We will not service Washington.
Mr. Worf, fire.
And that's right. We will not service Washington on this show. No. This is the Renegade Rambler radio show on the Renegade Rambler radio network. Yes, it's a little redundant, but that is us. So, we got Suzanne on here for a couple of minutes, and we got Jeff Johnson on here for the rest of the night, or at least until he goes on vacation again. So, how are you both doing?
Doing great. Howdy out here from the mountains.
I'm doing well. No vacations until hunting season. Then I have a couple weeks, but I'm not. That is a stay-at-home hunt vacation.
All right.
We may have an issue. We may have an issue with my show on Monday morning during the hunting season, but we'll see how that goes.
We may have an issue with my show during hunting season as well.
I figured I was going to get a ditto from out there in Utah as well.
Well, you can't pass up the chance to get elk. Of course, over here on the East Coast, it's like gambling to get a tag for that.
Well, it is. It's a lottery here. It's very, very they don't give out very many tags. They have very few bull tags, and they give out a few cow tags. But as far as I know, you would be lucky to get one in a lifetime in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, out here in Utah, elk tags are over the counter at Walmart. Right. Bull elk tag, you have your limited entry archery hunts and CWMU, wildlife managed land, that sort of thing. But you can get a private landowner tag for depredation for antlerless, meaning typically the cow elk. You can also get the cow elk in a draw, and you can get a bull. So I actually have 3 elk tags, and I have so many friends that like it. I figure I'm going to just get what I can. I also have a buck deer tag and share. Right.
Well, see, when I lived in Colorado, it was over the counter there, with the exception of out towards you. I don't know if you ever heard of Dinosaur in Colorado. It's right across the border from you. It's a trophy elk area. How did we get on to hunting? This is okay, though. We can do this more often. Anyway, right across the border from Utah.
As we talk, and we're questioning the topic of our conversation.
But anyway, right across the border from you in Colorado is a section of Colorado they call Dinosaur, and it's a trophy area.
40. Yeah, on 40.
Right. It's a trophy area. You're not going to take an elk if it's not a trophy elk, you're not taking it. Matter of fact, I have a friend that was a roommate out there. He and his family have still not drawn for Dinosaur, and he's my age, so he's been drawing now for probably 35 years, and his family still hasn't drawn one there. It's that's hard to get one.
That's how moose is out here. It's a once-in-a-lifetime tag if you go through the general process, or you can pay $15,000 for a hunt.
Yeah, and I don't think I have that. So anyway, we have you on for just a short time. Let's get right to what we got you on for. I asked you yesterday, I believe it was, if you'd come on for a short time and we could talk about Harvey, because that is the big news. There are places in Texas they're calling now, they may get 50 inches of rain. That's an incredible amount of rain. A lot of places right now are near 25 or over 25 inches of rain. I have family right outside of Houston. My mom has still been trying to get a hold of my niece. We haven't got a hold of her. That may just because the phone lines are down, the electric's down. We don't know. We are hoping and assuming that they're safe, but we still are trying to get a hold of them. So it affects a lot of people, and it even affects people here. And thank you, Petunia, for joining the show. But have a nice night. Go ahead, Daniel. I'm sorry.
My grandmother used to live just outside of Hockley, which literally it's just outside of Houston. But if you blinked, you would miss the post office because it's about the only thing in town.
Well, Jeff, you also mentioned something, a very good point, and you did it inadvertently. You talked about comms. Good communications are really important. And by golly, I am meaning to get my ham radio operator's license. I'm studying for the technician's license. Every time I had an appointment to take the test last year, we were snowed in. And then in the summer, I just get too busy. But I would think this would be a tremendous opportunity to be able to communicate, and a ham radio would be a way to keep in touch with people. Right.
And that, again, we've talked in the past about an organization I was part of, and I still am on the state level. And they have preparedness teams, and part of the preparedness teams is comms. And in the state of Pennsylvania, this organization weekly has a comms check, and from around the state, the different people that have ham radios communicate across the state. And what that does is that it gives an ability that they have ability to communicate if a section of Pennsylvania has a disaster, tornado, or whatever, and regular phone service and everything's out. They can still communicate and get messages in and out of those areas. So yes, comms are very important. And right now we're having difficulty reaching family members because either it's overwhelmed, the cell phones are just overwhelmed and you can't get through, which would also affect ability to reach 911. If you can reach 911, you're going to be prioritized on your level of need. At this point, it's going to be triaged. If they think they can save you, they may come eventually. If they think you're, quite honestly, they're going to triage it. If they can't get to you, you are out of luck. Well, so I think you have a book and talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, last year during Hurricane Matthew, the Weather Channel actually played a recording from 911 dispatch, and it was a daughter calling from out of town to the local police department where her parents lived in harm's way. The father was paralyzed. He was in a wheelchair, and the mother was there by herself with him. The water was rising. She was up on the counter, and the dad was in the wheelchair, and 911 dispatch said, "We are very sorry. We're not sending anybody out." That's about as dire a situation as you can get. And they still just said, "We are sorry." And this is why it's so important to have a plan ahead of time, particularly if you have elderly or other needy family members that can't possibly take care of themselves in a situation like that. One of the first books I ever got when it came to prepping, this is about 8 years old, and I've had Arthur Bradley, the author, Arthur T. Bradley, PhD. It's the national best-selling book, The Handbook to Practical Disaster Preparedness for the Family. It is absolutely comprehensive. It is a great starting book. As you can see, I have just gone through it. I beat it up. But what he has a chapter on is the 5 horsemen of death, and those are the hurricanes, tsunamis, tornadoes, earthquakes, and floods. And what's unique about the hurricanes is they also encompass 2 of the others, and that is tornadoes and floods. I have a friend in Sour Lake, Texas right now, and she just put up on Facebook that there are tornadoes all around where she is. So not only do you have to deal with the high wind and the rain and the debris of the hurricane, but you have to deal with tornadoes and floods, which are pretty intimidating in and of themselves. In fact, the overwhelming majority of deaths in hurricanes are from the storm surge and the flooding.
Mm-hmm. Was that the Handbook to Practical Disaster Preparedness for the Family?
Yes, Arthur T. Bradley. He was on my old show twice. By the way, I want to let people know that we're going to be uploading all my old shows from the other network onto our webpage. We're just going to figure out onto the radio network on how we can do it logistically. So those will be made available. Also, another quick announcement, Prepper Talk Radio is also joining forces with us. They have a huge library and preparedness guide of survival and prepping videos. So this is going to be a big boon to all of us, and we're going to be helping each other out and working with each other.
Yeah. Well, just as an addition.
Okay. 2 things. Just so everybody knows, in a disaster situation where property loss or death is happening or could have the potential to happen, you can operate any ham radio on any frequency to get help. Since we mentioned hams, and I am a general class hammer. Number 2, the book, the 3rd edition of the book, is free on Kindle on Amazon, and it's $10 if you want the actual book. So I will.
Which book are you talking about?
The one that I mentioned here.
Okay. Okay. It wasn't short. You were just talking ham, so I didn't know if it was a handbook or if we're talking about the preparedness book. Okay.
The other thing
I was just clarifying.
Yeah.
Just to elaborate on ham, when you talk about going out, you have the different classes of license. For instance, absent an emergency situation, somebody who just got their technician's license like me couldn't use, what is the atmosphere, the level of atmosphere they use to bounce it off of, the signal off of?
You can do that on 2 meter once you get your technician license.
Oh, you can do that with the technician. Okay.
You can do that with CB. The problem with the CB channel is it's 11 meter. It will reach out and touch somebody. The problem is the power setting can only be 8 watts on, I'm going to say broadband. I know that's not the right term, but on the regular band, you can only use 8 watts, and on single sideband, you can only use 12. Anything
Also,
above that, and you void the device license, which is what you're operating under when you use CB.
And if you have the radio, but you don't have the license and it is an emergency situation, you can use the radio.
Right. In a disaster situation where either loss of property or injury is going to happen, you are allowed to use any frequency for anything. But I will warn you, if you get onto a military frequency and you're calling for help and they show up, you better need help, because they will not take kindly to getting disturbed on their channels.
Yeah. So anyway, and just going back to your old show on the old network you were on, I have an Arthur Bradley book that came from your show. I called in and got the EMP book. So yes, you guys are really good information.
We had a show just on EMP. So yes, we're going to work on getting all those available for you. One of the agreements was that they would be free to anybody to listen to when I was on there. So this should be no issue now that we've all moved on and kind of gone to our separate focuses.
Okay. Let's just skip back, because you're really short of time. Let's skip back to real quick to Harvey. Was there anything in there that Arthur Bradley had that specifically on flooding that might be of interest, or you don't really know? You didn't sit and look at it and find it.
Oh yeah. I mean, what you have to do to avoid flooding is the first concern is to get out of harm's way. That's what he says is the number one rule of survival. Whatever you're dealing with, any circumstance, get out of the way. So if there's going to be a flood, it's kind of silly to think, well, this is how I'm going to ride it out in my home. The thing about Texas that I've been watching is the whole area is flat. A third of the state almost is being affected by this. So you would have to get on maybe Interstate 10 and drive hundreds of miles. So we're seeing these people now, you have your basics. You want to have water for everybody. You want to have a way to stay dry. You want to avoid going out. These are the basics that he covers. Obviously have food. If you're going to shelter in, be prepared. The problem is when you have a storm surge like this and the water's rising up, it might already be too late. So going by what I've seen on this issue, I don't think I'd ever want to stay in and ride out a hurricane. One thing that I was seeing that was interesting were announcements that people should not seek shelter in their attics, because obviously you want to get higher up. And it almost reminded me of what they tell you on an airplane disaster over water. Never, ever inflate your life vest inside the plane, because what's going to happen, you can't go underneath the water to get out. And I saw a little bit of a parallel there with going into your attic, because if the water goes high enough, you might not be able to get out. So be very careful that your route for survival doesn't turn into a death trap.
Right. Okay. We're during show prep when we were talking a little earlier. I told you I grew up on an island, next island north of Atlantic City, and we rode out 2 hurricanes. Now again, they were not Category 4s. Had they been that strong a storm, we would have left the island for sure. They were like Category 1, maybe a strong Category 1, maybe Category 2. No more than 100 miles an hour. The storm surges were very low. We rode it out. Was there flooding? Yeah, there was flooding, but nothing that couldn't be handled. Now, Sandy went across the same island and was devastating on the island. There was sections that were just destroyed. I mean, beaches were houses on the beach were destroyed. Big sections of the island. And I was telling you about a northeaster that came across in 1962. I remember seeing pictures on the island that the island was actually cut into 3 pieces. It was an 18-mile long island, and the ocean washed through, and they had to bring sand in and reconnect the island again. And there was loss of life. People weren't expecting something like that. There's storm. It was just a northeast storm. So sometimes you're caught unawares by these things. If you are, you need to have a plan to make sure that you can take care of yourself, because help may not be coming, like you said.
Well, note on this that Sandy, I don't even think it was a hurricane when it made shore. Wasn't it a tropical storm at that point?
It might have been. I don't remember.
Sure. Or
it devastated. I thought it was still a hurricane at that point, but it may not have been. But it devastated much of the eastern, much of New Jersey and all the way up into New York. It was a huge storm. I know. It made a huge impact.
It was one of the few storms that actually made the left turn right into Moonachie,
yeah.
Which I know where that is. But anyway, what I was going to say is Katrina was a Category 3 when it hit. This is a Category 4 that made landfall. And according to the Weather Channel, Houston floods in 2 inches of rain. They're projected to get 50 inches of rain. So they're going to be flooded for a while.
Now.
Yeah,
they're
going to be flooded
now.
Because they're like 2 feet above sea level, I believe. It's not very high.
So, Suzanne, do you have any last thoughts on this Harvey incident?
I think evacuation, being able to evacuate is absolutely important. And key to doing that is making sure that your vehicle is always in a state of readiness. Try and keep the tank as full as you can, because in a situation like this where a lot of people are going to have to leave at the same time. I'm hearing reports of people running out of gas and being stuck on the freeway and having to shelter in their cars, which can be very dangerous if you're in a flood situation. Make sure your vehicle is always ready to go and get out. And don't wait till the last minute. Have some supplies in your cars. We always have supplies in our vehicles out here. Plenty of water. We kind of tweak our supplies depending on the season, obviously. And if you live in a situation like that, I think it's very imperative to leave if you know this is coming, and again, get out of the way. There's nothing worth staying home and dying for. Bring your animals to whatever you can do to get out.
All right. So I think that pretty much covers Harvey. I just hope that, again, we have family, all of us have family and friends in that area. We're all praying that everyone is safe down there. And it is affecting a massive area. I have family in Austin, and they're affected by this. They're getting flooding in Austin. So I'm praying everyone's safe. Make sure you prepare and that you have supplies and you have the ability to take care of yourself and get yourself out of trouble, because help may not be coming. Thank you for coming on, Suzanne. I know you have family that is waiting for you expectantly inside, probably to cook them dinner. And yes. You have a nice night, and I will see you in the morning.
Yes, we'll talk about our schedule later on after the show.
You got it. And Daniel's telling me it is time for a break. This is the Renegade and Rambler show on the Renegade Rambler Radio Network. 18th century ideas for 21st century thinkers.
From a jack to a king, from loneliness to a wedding ring, I played an ace and I won a queen, and walked away with your heart. From a jack to a king, with no regret I stacked the cards last night, and Lady Luck played her hand just right to make me king of your heart.
Citizens, soldiers, I'm here at the order of General Robert E. Lee, commanding all Virginia forces. On April 15th of this year of our Lord, 1861, Simon Cameron, the Secretary of War of the United States, sent a telegram to our Governor, John Letcher, directing him to raise 3 regiments of infantry to be sent to assist in suppressing the Southern Confederacy. Governor Letcher's answer is well known to you, but perhaps not his words. His wire to Washington stated, You have chosen to inaugurate civil war. And having done so, we will meet you in a spirit as determined as the Lincoln administration has exhibited toward the South. 2 days later, the Virginia legislature voted for secession. Just as we would not send any of our soldiers to march in other states and tyrannize other people, so will we never allow the armies of others to march into our state and tyrannize our people. Like many of you, indeed most of you, I've always been a Union man. It is not with joy or with a light heart that many of us have welcomed secession. Had our neighbors to the north practiced a less bellicose form of persuasion, perhaps this day might not have come, but that day has been thrust upon us like it was thrust upon our ancestors. The Lincoln administration required us to raise 3 regiments. Tell them we have done so.
Renegade Ramblers Radio Network. 18th century ideas for 21st century thinkers.
Well, now let go me the breeze. I keep blowing down the road.
Well, welcome back to the Renegade and Rambler show, only on the Renegade and Rambler Radio Network. I guess I'm going to start reading. All copyrights reserved now. We hate copyright deals here. Anyway, so Jeff, which one did we want to get into next, or did you have something you want to? Because I can literally fill about an hour and a half with this story here.
I have some other stories, but we can go into Antifa, and if we want to move on to something else for the end of the show, we can talk a couple of other things if we need to, or we can just take off with the Antifa thing, which obviously is in the news. Like I said on our show prep, it's there's a Antifa rally, riot, whatever you want to call it, going on out at Berkeley in California today. So it just is not going to go away quietly.
Well, maybe they should have rallied in the Houston area, and they could have gotten buckets and dumped some of that water back out in the ocean. But since that's not going to happen, at least they had. Well, anyway. I don't know. Did you read this wonderful toilet paper here, Jeff?
I saw it. I did not read the entire thing. I didn't expect that we were going to talk. I didn't know that you had even seen it. I didn't really do anything with it. As far as I know, though, what you're looking at is probably correct. I have not seen anything otherwise to say that it's not real and it's not what they believe in. So,
all right. Well, I'm going to skip certain sections of it because it's just not relevant. The introduction, the white privilege thing. If you're white, you're a male, you're an evil SOB, and according to them, you should just die.
Actually, speaking of that, there was a thing from BLM, which is closely related to this Antifa stuff anyway. There was a BLM spokesman that was at a press conference. And he was talking to some white guy, and he was like, white lives don't matter. And, well, the guy's like, well, what are you saying? That white people should just commit suicide? And he's like, yeah, just commit suicide. That's the best thing. You guys just should be gone. And he was dead serious.
Oh, they're not joking
these people
around.
are serious about... No, these people are serious about this whole thing, this violence and everything that they're committing. So go ahead. I'm sorry. It was just something you said that just brought back. I just watched this video. I didn't download it. I was thinking about it, and I said, you know what? These people are crazy. They are no different than the KKK or the white supremacists. The Black Lives Matter is the same thing, just a different race.
I would have to say I believe they're worse only because they're getting cover from the media and the law on being able to do whatever they want whenever they want. The KKK, white supremacists, never got the support of the media or the law when they were rioting back in the 60s or causing the blacks to riot in the 60s.
Yeah. So I'm
it's
sorry.
It's a little bit of a different animal, but
yeah,
I get where you're going.
They're on the same team. They all have the same goals, and there is a little overlap probably in these two groups.
Oh,
but anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, after they just got done in their wonderful pamphlet, which if anybody from Antifa wants to argue that this isn't their document, you can always message me and send me the actual document. I'm sure I can tear it apart too. But after they get done saying white privilege and whites are evil and whites have caused all the problems in the world, anyway, then they say they want to create a culture of tolerance. To create a culture of tolerance, we must first eliminate all forms of hate speech. Okay, every time you hear the words hate speech, think free speech, because that's what they're actually doing. If you don't agree with them, it's hate speech. Every idea critical of our movement or our way of thinking must be condemned as racist, homophobic, misogynist, etc. So right there you see, if you don't agree with them, then you must be a hater. We have the facts and history on our side, which they don't, because guess what? Hitler was a socialist, and that's exactly what they're teaching here. And Hitler did everything they're saying they don't believe in, quote unquote. When all else fails, compare someone to Hitler. Now, for one, if you compare someone to Hitler, you've automatically lost the argument because, anyway, every once in a while, one of our minority group friends will become delusioned and speak out as a conservative, aka fascist. This is a really bad copy. Belittle them as delusional. They speak against their own rational self-interest. Our color, my blackness, for example, comes first. It defines who I am. Black first, American second. Gay, lesbian first, little person, dwarf second. American third, and so on. So you see right there, they have everything in common with the white supremacists, except for one. They believe that blacks are superior to whites. All they did was change the race. They didn't change any of the governing side of it, just the race side of it.
You said a minute ago, part of that was something about excluding people or not allowing people into something or something like along that line in that paragraph. It was right near the beginning when you started reading.
Eliminate all forms of hate speech.
No, it was basic. Well, here I have an article that I posted. Should veterans be banned from UCCS and other universities? I'll just read the first paragraph. A four-year traditional university is supposed to be a place of. Oh, and this is by a Terry Steinowitz, and this is real. I actually searched it out to make sure I wasn't getting some made-up document. No, the University of Colorado. It's a Colorado university. I don't remember. I looked it up, and they responded to it. They say that this doesn't represent them, but they posted it on their bulletin board, and it's okay. So anyway, however, there is an element among us who may be frustrating those goals. Veterans. UCCS is known for its number for the number of veterans who are full-time and part-time students, but these veterans are much of the school prides themselves on may be hurting the university. First off, many veterans openly mock the idea of diversity and safe spaces for vulnerable members of society. This is directly in contradiction to the mission of the UCCS. Many veterans utter the mantra that they do not see color, but the problem lies in their socialization into the military culture that it is that of a white supremacist organization. So the military is a white supremacist organization. They have been permanently tainted and are no longer fit for a 4-year university. I know I heard you say something about, and that's what I looked that up as soon as I heard you say it. But you said something about the people, you have to exclude people from whatever. And that's their goal. You talk out about anything, they're going to try to take away your job, take away your thing. Now they're talking, this person here is saying that veterans are part of a white supremacist group and they're not fit to be on a university.
Well, yeah, they specifically said Every idea critical of our movement or our way of thinking must be condemned as racist, homophobic, misogynist, etc. So if you speak out against them at all, even if you have the facts, well, you must be a racist. Well, you must be a homophobe.
Because she even quotes them as they say that these veterans say, we don't see color. And quite honestly, the military, there's probably racists in the military, but for the most part, since integration, it has become a pretty colorblind organization. And veterans that are in battle say are not very, they're pretty adamant about the fact that no matter what color the person is next to them, as long as they have their back, they're a brother. So it really has become a non-discriminatory agency. But this group believes that they are white supremacists and they're not fit for universities any longer because they serve the military.
Yes, and I have black friends that are, well, they're not former Marines because there's no such thing as a former Marine. We'll get hate speech if I call somebody a retired Marine. Anyway, they are no longer in the service, but they're still Marines. And he said he doesn't care if they're gay, if they're white, black, Hispanic, whatever, as long as they have a rifle and they're shooting in the same direction as he's shooting, he doesn't care what they are, just as long as they have his back. But anyway, if I don't keep reading, we're never going to get through this tonight. The next paragraph starts crashing the borders. Most liberals are not Antifa yet, and that's because they're going to redefine liberal into being anti-fascist, which they are clearly not anti-fascist, but I digress. But soon they will be. Refugee crises, such as those created by the situation in Syria, are the ideal way to get more people of color, and then they break it down to POC, into America. They need our help. There are pictures of dead babies who have washed ashore onto beaches. Use imagery such as this to get support for expanding the POC, minority population in the United States. You want to expand the minority population in the United States, Antifa? I got 2 words for you. End abortion. You end abortion, you will have a minority increase in the United States. You don't have one right now because you've allowed your Democratic buddies. Yes, I said your Democratic buddies, and most of the Republicans will aid you in this, in causing your own genocide by having abortions. Oh, look, we have dead babies wash up on shore. Oh, look, we have dead babies in garbage cans being incinerated because the mother decided she didn't want to have the baby. It was inconvenient. I digress. Never call any immigrant illegal, obviously. They are undocumented. They are illegal. If I cross into Canada without my fast pass, I am illegal. I will be detained. I will be sent back. Same thing if I pass from Canada into the U.S. without my fast pass, I will be detained. I am illegal. I did not pass with the proper paperwork. I have to wait for clearance from the State Department to get back in. It doesn't matter whether they come over here to smuggle drugs or if they were brought here by their parents at a young age. Illegal is illegal. That's not what they said. I'm adding commentary. Migrants from Mexico and South America will play a crucial role in Antifa activities in the next 100 years. By 2117, 100 years from now, our goal is to have 70% of the U.S. population be non-white. By then, we will hopefully have all the same problems we do today. Oh, no, I mean, have subverted the power structure enough to eventuate our ends. Yeah, okay. You'll have all the same problems you have today, except you'll have a Latin dictator instead of a white dictator. You still end up with the same dirty, rotten dictator.
Well, we'll end up Venezuela. If we import Venezuela, we will be Venezuela.
Well, I think we're going to bomb Venezuela back into the Stone Age anyway, because that's what we do in the U.S.
People are dying there, so we have to kill more people.
They're not dying fast enough, according to some people in our government. We need Raytheon needs to make more bombs. Control the media. I thought they already controlled the media, but anyway, it's important to gain control of the media through any means necessary. In these early stages of this movement's been going on since about 1870. It's been going on for quite some time, people. It's not the early stages of the movement anymore. It's the early stages of the radicalization of it, though.
I suspect that the media they're speaking of is what we're doing right now. I suspect they're talking about this alternative media that is growing because the old media is dying. So the alternative media is growing. And the worldwide numbers show that internet radio is growing and everything else is pretty much dying out. And quite honestly, pretty much internet, whatever, whether it's television or whatever, is really, I mean, I watch most of my shows now right off of the internet. I rarely get to see them live anymore.
Well, who wants to watch commercials? I'm willing to pay money to not watch commercials because I don't need to see a car that I can't afford on the TV. Well, I could afford it, but I choose not to afford it because I don't want to pay the bank more money.
Yeah. So anyway, I do believe that this is the media they're speaking of, not so much the New York Times, the ABC, NBC, CNN, MSNBC. I believe it's this alternative media that's really kicking all the other ones' butt, and where the information is coming from.
You are correct. I'm going to read this, and then we'll take our break because we're up against the break. Use white shame and white guilt to kowtow men in positions of power into following our ideals. Some major media conglomerates are swinging to our side, but they have not gone far enough because it's total surrender or else language. And by the way, even when you totally surrender, they will still chop your head off because you didn't surrender fast enough. Social media is the new battlefront of ideals. We've seen what kind of power these outlets yield by kicking major fascists off their platform before. This will and this must only continue. And Vice President Pence, you're falling into their plan here. You need to start, stop kowtowing to them. If you are seeking positions of power in the media, be sure to obfuscate and hide your true intentions on the various social media platforms. Oh, let's think. Who teaches people to lie? It's not God. It's not Christians. The father of lies, Satan, the devil. Anyway, better to remain a mystery and wield massive power than blatantly shouting your viewpoints from the hilltops. We have the objective truth on our side. Always project that. Yes. Let's package truth into a deceptive package because, well, it's not truth. Truth doesn't need to be packaged in deception. Use social media as a baton to slap down anyone who holds fascist viewpoints. Oh, please hit me up on social media. I would enjoy tearing you apart. Call them racist, homophobic, misogynistic. Create an echo chamber around yourself. Okay, so go into your closet, shut the door, and stay there, please. That is your echo chamber. Many of us first learned about Antifa and gained our views on college campuses and universities across the country. Again, with my story last week, stop taxing me and taking my money to propagandize people, please. I mean, really, do I need to pick up a torch here? This needs to start earlier. Take up teaching as a profession. Oh, I have. I do teach as a profession. So does my lovely wife. We homeschool. Thank you, Antifa. Thank you. Where was I? I keep losing my place. This needs to start early. Take up teaching as a profession. Educate the youth about the dangers of fascism. Oh, I do. And I educate them about the dangers of you as well. Befriend those vulnerable students who are suspect of having fascist-leaning parents. Oh, I guess I'm a fascist-leaning parent. Oh, shucks. Not going to get my kids. Teach little Timmy not just how to read good, but also how to think and act good. Oh, I am. I'm teaching them how to think good. And this is not thinking good. For one, your English is horrible, by the way. Once we firmly have control of social media and most major media platforms, it's time to start Operation Truth. I'm going to start calling it Operation Distruth because it's not truth. The way many social media platforms currently work is that people are primarily exposed to viewpoints they primarily already agree with. Again, your English is just junk. This creates a kind of echo chamber for the individual. No, your closet works better. Please go back into closet, shut and lock door, and then scream to your heart's content. By the way, put the key out underneath the door, please. However, once we control the flow of information, we can slowly start spreading the truth to the fascists who reject our ideology. So what, you're going to start book burnings? Hey, Jeff, where did we hear of book burnings during World War II?
Well, that would have been in Germany.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page here. Yeah. Well, wait, there was no pages in Germany because they burned the books.
Well, you know, the one thing that we need to go to break. It's 42. So why don't I break this, and then I'll come back with the thought I was just going to come up with put out there. But this is the Renegade and Ramblers show on the Renegade Ramblers radio network, 18th century ideas for 21st century thinkers.
Walk away, leave with my blessing. Once in a while, let me hear from you. If we never meet again before my life is over, I'll leave this world loving you.
Looking for a new custom camo dress or scarf? Tail Gunner Apparel. Looking for bath and body products for women and men? Tail Gunner Apparel. Looking for bed scarves and custom home products? Tail Gunner Apparel. Look awesome and feel even better. Tail Gunner Apparel on Facebook or at tailgunnerapparel.etsy.com. That's tailgunnerapparel.etsy.com.
Made love and then you cried, remember when?
Renegade Ramblers Radio Network, 18th century ideas for 21st century thinkers.
Some got a boat they like to float, some got a store they sugarcoat, some got a clue and then some don't. It takes all kinds. Some got a beer they like to drink, some got a thought they like to think, some got a chain with a few more links. It takes all kinds. That's what makes this world go around. You keep doing your thing, I'm doing mine right now. You've got a song, go on and sing it. Crank it up, rev back and bring it. I got one, I think I'll swing it. It takes all kinds.
Well, welcome back to the Renegade and the Rambler show, only on the Renegade and Rambler radio network. Okay, Jeff, you said you had a comment to the control the media paragraph that I'm now going to listen to and then skip the rest of the
you brought up you brought up a thing that I was thinking about with this whole movement to begin with. You had the brown shirts of the 1920s with Hitler. You had a movement similar to this with Mao in China. You had Che, the murderer in Cuba, that killed people because of their view against the government. It's a common thread. And now we have the same movement starting here. And a lot of people are not recognizing from history the roots of these people. Their name is anti-fascist, but they are the fascists. They're the ones that are calling for the anarchy and the destruction of people that don't think like them. So the old saying, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. Well, obviously, we're doomed to repeat it because no one today is looking at the history and going, well, these are just what Hitler did, Mao did, Che in Cuba. And look at Venezuela. Down there, they're sending the troops out to kill people because they want food. Same thing. And these people are cut from the same cloth, and we're bound and determined to go down that road.
I always like the when my wife was pregnant with my oldest boy, we went into the doctor, and the doctor said, well, if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Well, these people walk like socialists, talk like socialists, so they probably are socialists. and let me tell you, the difference between a socialist and a fascist is about a microscopic amoeba apart. I mean, the only difference is who formally owns the businesses. That's the only difference between a fascist and a socialist. And, of course, what race they believe should run everything. But anyway, the next article, showing their tolerance from article number 3, believe the way we do or you will be fired. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to threaten your livelihood. Guess what? I drive truck for a living. Go ahead and threaten it. I can find another trucking job. It'll take me all of 5 minutes. I mean, come on. I mean, maybe somebody that's in a field that is a little more specific or something, this might be effective, but it's not really effective to a truck driver. And most truck drivers don't give a rat's behind. Then phase 2. If you don't like what we say, we'll fire you. Then what we're going to do is socialize your capital. I.e., we're going to take everything you make. Then we're going to speed up progress. I.e., we got to become Venezuela, and we're not doing it fast enough. Let's see. Ooh, phase number 3. Guess what phase number 3 is called? New World Order. Oh, okay. So we've lost Jeff. So the New World Order. Imagine a world free of hatred and bigotry. Imagine a world where you'll never have to be called the N-word again. Does that include blacks calling blacks the N-word? Just need clarification of that. Imagine a world where you can be as gay as you want and not be called a raging. Anyway, I'm not going to continue this because, well, it's not befitting of family-friendly radio or TV for that matter. And since we're on YouTube, it has to be classified as TV. And microaggressive speech is eradicated. Okay, what is microaggressive speech, people? Really? Is me calling you people microaggressive? I didn't go to college to learn what microaggressive is. I'm a trucker, so microaggressive could mean a lot of things. I experience them when most of you try to drive. Just saying. One way to accomplish this will be to tag or microchip. But yeah, we're gonna. Yeah, not gonna get microchip, people. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen on your life. Human being on the planet, and they will do so voluntarily. Use the guise of entertainment and other benefits to lure the people to this end. The chip embedded in the hand or neck. Okay. Time out. Okay, the embedding of the chip. For one, it won't be able to be in the neck. No, it'll be in your forehead or in your left hand. And it's talked about in Revelations for one thing, and it's not talked about favorably in Revelations if you study it. It's also known as the mark of the beast, 666. You get the idea. Yeah, it's not going to happen. And knowing what I know of Scripture, I would advise everybody to not do this. It's very dangerous. In fact, it may doom you to, anyway, it may doom you to a life outside of Christ when he does return. This chip embed will allow Antifa approved regulators to monitor the citizenry of the world. Yes. Yeah. Have we lived through enough genocidal dictators to realize this is not a good idea? Have we yet? Come on, people. information accessible by waving a wand a few feet away from the chip. Okay, I am seriously hoping this is made up because it's just, anyway. DNA content. Anyway, well, maybe we'll have to have Mr. Let's see if we can get our one of our friends on here that knows more about how to store information in the DNA. Earnings, known associates, Antifa status, etc. This sounds a lot like the Nazi Party. If you weren't part of the Nazi Party, or weren't part of Mao Zedong, or you weren't part of Stalin's party, you were the enemy. So, people, do we really want to go down this road? This doesn't look like a road we want to go down. Thus, with the wave of a wand, one would be able to tell whether that vaguely beige-looking person is allowed to use the term the N-word. For example, anyway, the issue of using force to achieve our ends is a tricky one. Always shout down fascist opponents, disrupt their speeches, counter-rally their rallies, force the media to show our side as the righteous one that it is. It's not. It's not righteous. It has nothing to do with righteous. If this document is true, the only thing it has to do is Satan's work itself. Go ahead. Go ahead. Leave a comment down here and tell me I'm wrong. By the way, you're going to have to back it up with proof. Because from what I'm seeing, it ain't wrong. Oh, look. And they also have a section on one world government. Do I need to keep going here, guys? Really? One world government, new world order. It's the same BS, just different day, just different lettering. It's the progressive agenda. It's going to get us all killed if we don't get it stopped. And the fact that the government and the media are giving it cover is just ridiculous. You know, there was a group in Europe and Asia that have tried this. There's a group in South America, a couple groups in South America currently living this. I think it's safe to say that if you asked any of them truthfully, without the threat of government and maybe as, I don't know, anonymous, that they probably would be willing to tell you that that's not a path you want to take, and it's a very dangerous path to be engaged in. And it's just, I'm using the word "and" too much, but hopefully you get my drift. This Antifa stuff, you guys need to stay away from it. It's going to get people killed if it hasn't already gotten people killed. It's just it's getting ridiculous, and the best way to survive a riot is to not be near a riot. And it's going to erupt in a riot, and it's going to end up in another armed conflict here in the States that nobody needs to be a part of, and nobody really wants. But a lot of good people are going to be drawn into it, and a lot of good people are going to end up killed because of it. There's no reason for this, people. None. This Antifa stuff needs to go away. So does the BLM, so do the white supremacists and all them. It all needs to go away. It doesn't benefit anyone. It doesn't help our causes. It destroys all the, well, I say good, but the only thing this country does good is bomb other countries into oblivion. And it just causes a bunch of havoc everywhere, and then can't believe why the havoc comes home. You know, Obama's pastor might have been right. Maybe America's chickens are coming home to roost, and we're just too stupid to understand it. But anyway, Jeff Johnson's gone because he lost power. So he'll be back, I believe, on Monday. He's supposed to do a show with Suzanne. If that's the case, it will be posted eventually when I get the chance to do it and I've confirmed it. Let's see. I might be able to get through this. Anyway, like I said, stay away from the Antifa stuff. It's going to get somebody killed. Here's another one from the GOA News. And the title of it's "The Second Amendment Gives You Nothing." I say this a lot in my Twitter feed. This is Jordan Stein's writing. I say this a lot in my Twitter feed, and it's important debating that rights come from God versus the Second Amendment. It's a futile exercise in semantics. The source of rights has drastic consequences on to what extent those rights can be regulated. Unfortunately, I see a lot of well-intentioned but perhaps misguided gun rights supporters say that the Second Amendment somehow gives to Americans the right to keep and bear arms. Frankly, I fail to see how words written on a paper give a right. Certainly, the American founders did not believe they were giving rights. After all, who are they to give rights? The American founders believed and expressed in the Declaration of Independence that rights came from the Creator and that rights are inalienable. Because rights are inalienable, governments have no jurisdiction to regulate or infringe, as the Second Amendment says, those rights. But let's just dissect the Second Amendment gives gun rights logic. If gun rights came from the Second Amendment, then the rights would really come from the men who wrote it. If rights came from man, then the right would in reality come from the majority. And as history proves, majorities come and go. Having such a critical right, such as keeping and bearing arms, come from a fickle majority is a very unstable source of a right. This concept is explained in detail in the Root of It All episode of GOA's podcast, Firing Back. I encourage you to take a listen as host Eric Pratt expertly explains the source of rights. As Eric explains, because rights come from God, the government has no authority to institute prior restraints on those rights. And as we all, I believe I can speak for the entire network here, rights come from God, not from man. And because they come from God and not man, man has no jurisdiction over the rights. The only way you can protect your rights is to acknowledge that rights come from God. Because if they come from man, man can change your rights. If rights come from God, God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. God doesn't change. If God gave you the right to freedom of speech, then you have a right to freedom of speech. If God gave you the right to defend yourself, then you have the right to defend yourself. You don't need a piece of paper in D.C. to tell you that. You don't need a piece of paper in the state capitol to tell you that. The right comes from God. The Bible tells you that. Now, the Bible also says thou shalt not kill, but that it actually, if you read the Hebrew, it's thou shalt not murder. But anyway, I digress. And the music's playing, so I need to get off of here so we don't overchop the the radio.co thing. Anyway, like I said, Jeff should be on tomorrow, I believe. I'll double check with him. We'll make an announcement on the Facebook feed. We are on Facebook at the Renegade Rambler Radio Network. Look us up, like us. If you've already liked us, please share us. We appreciate any free advertising we can get. Remember, nobody here makes a salary. Anyway, you can download the app from there, and you can always watch us here on YouTube. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.